I found messages on my fiancé's phone to our wedding planner. Just a few more days, then we can finally be together. We were 2 weeks away from our $80,000 wedding. I smiled, said nothing, and continued planning the perfect day. I never thought I'd be that guy posting about relationship drama on Reddit, but here I am. My world imploded 3 weeks ago, and I'm still trying to figure out how to handle this mess. Let me start by saying I was supposed to be getting married to Olivia in exactly 18 days. We've been together for 4 years, engaged for 1, and I honestly thought she was my forever person. I'm an architect, she's a marketing executive, and we seem to have our shit together. The wedding plans were coming together nicely. Thanks to Marco, the celebrity wedding planner, Olivia insisted we hire even though he cost a small fortune. It all blew up last Thursday. I was working from home while Olivia was at some client dinner. She'd asked me to check the honeymoon itinerary that had been emailed to her, so I grabbed her iPad, which she'd left unlocked. We've always had an open device policy. As I was checking her emails, a message notification popped up from Marco. Missing you already. Can't wait for tomorrow's venue visit. I shouldn't have tapped it, but I did. What followed was 3 months of messages between them. Not just about our wedding, but about them. Sexting. Plans to meet at hotels. Inside jokes about me being clueless. Even discussions about how they might handle the situation after the wedding. I felt like I was going to throw up. The messages made it clear this wasn't just a one-time mistake. It was an ongoing affair that had started literally weeks after we hired him. There were photos I wish I could unsee. Voice messages I forced myself to listen to. In one, Olivia was laughing about how I was working late again while she was actually with him. The worst part? They'd been discussing our wedding plans as if it was some kind of joke. Marco had written, "It's ironic I'm planning the perfect wedding for you with someone else." And Olivia had replied with a heart emoji and, "Life is complicated." I sat there for hours, just scrolling through their conversation history. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the iPad. I took screenshots of everything. Something in my brain was functioning enough to know I needed evidence. By midnight, Olivia still wasn't home. I texted her asking where she was. She replied she was still at the client dinner, might crash at Jen's place since it's so late. I checked her location on Find My Friends. She wasn't at any restaurant. She wasn't at Jen's. She was at the Westlake Hotel, the same hotel Marco had mentioned in a message earlier that week. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in our living room, surrounded by all the stupid wedding planning binders Marco had put together for us, trying to figure out what to do. Should I confront her immediately? Should I wait and gather more information? Should I blow up the wedding in the most public, humiliating way possible? Or should I just quietly disappear from her life? The next morning, Olivia came home looking perfectly put together, telling me about her late client meeting and how she'd stayed at Jen's. She kissed me on the cheek and asked if I'd checked the honeymoon details. I looked her right in the eyes I thought I knew, and said, "Yeah, everything looks perfect." She had no idea I knew. No idea her world was about to collapse, just like mine had. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, I've been playing the role of excited fiancé while secretly planning my next move. Olivia and Marco still don't know that I know everything. And I mean everything. What happened next still shocks me when I think about it. So, after finding those messages, I knew I needed more information. Not just for myself, but because I had this feeling Olivia wasn't Marco's first client with benefits. Call it intuition or whatever, but something seemed too practiced about their messages. The morning after my discovery, I called in sick to work. As soon as Olivia left for her office, I started digging deeper. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I hacked into Olivia's email. We'd set up each other's accounts years ago, and she never changed her password, my birthday, which felt like another punch to the gut. Her email was a goldmine of betrayal. Hotel confirmations. Late-night Uber receipts to addresses that weren't our home or her office. But what really got me was a folder labeled M with red heart, with photos that confirmed everything. Some were innocent enough, selfies at restaurants when she'd told me she was working late. Others, well, let's just say they've been seared into my brain. Worst part? In one email thread, they were literally discussing their future after our honeymoon. Marco wrote about how they needed to be patient and that timing is everything. Olivia replied that she was counting down the days. I nearly lost it then. I wanted to trash our apartment, cancel everything, and send those screenshots to her parents, her boss, everyone. But something stopped me. Maybe it was shock, maybe self-preservation. I decided I needed to know more about Marco. This is where things get interesting. I reached out to my college buddy, Derek, who now works as a PI. I told him everything and asked if he could dig into Marco's background. Derek agreed to help me pro bono, wedding gift, he called it, with dark humor. While waiting for Derek's info, I continued my act. Every evening, Olivia would come home, kiss me, talk about wedding details, and I'd pretend everything was fine. She'd occasionally get texts that made her smile, then quickly put her phone away. Once, she even took a work call in our bathroom with the shower running. The audacity was actually impressive. 3 days later, Derek called me to meet for drinks. What he found blew my mind. Marco wasn't just some random wedding planner who happened to seduce my fiancée. He had a pattern. Derek found 3 different women in the past 2 years who'd hired Marco as their wedding planner, only to end up in affairs with him. One marriage had even ended in divorce just 6 months after the wedding, with the husband never knowing why. Derek showed me social media posts, witness statements from hotel staff who recognized Marco's pattern, and even found a private Instagram account Marco used exclusively for his special clients. Olivia was featured prominently. "There's more," Derek said, sliding his phone across the table. Marco had been systematically overcharging us and pocketing the difference. Our exclusive vendor discount was actually a 30% markup that went straight to Marco's personal account. We'd already paid him nearly $45,000 for a wedding that should have cost maybe $30,000. So not only was this guy sleeping with my fiancée, he was robbing us blind in the process. I sat there stunned, nursing my whiskey. "What would you do?" I asked Derek. Derek leaned back. "Well, professionally speaking, I'd say you have enough to ruin both their lives. Legally, financially, socially. And personally speaking?" He grinned. "Personally, I'd make them regret ever meeting you." That night, I drove around for hours, thinking. When I got home, Olivia was asleep. Her phone was on her nightstand, and I watched as it lit up with a message from Wedding Details, Marco's contact name in her phone. "Sweet dreams, beautiful. 16 more days. 16 days until what should have been our wedding. 16 days to decide what I was going to do. Quietly disappear? Public humiliation? Something else entirely?" I crawled into bed beside the stranger I'd planned to spend my life with, and made my decision. The next day, I started putting my plan into motion. And let me tell you, it's been the most challenging acting job of my life. So, after finding out about Marco's history of seducing clients and scamming them financially, I had a choice to make. I could either blow everything up immediately or be strategic. I chose the latter. First, I secured all my finances. I moved my personal savings to a new account Olivia didn't know about. I froze our joint credit cards, claiming potential fraud, which wasn't exactly a lie. I also spoke with my lawyer friend about the financial fraud angle with Marco. Turns out there's plenty to work with there. But I knew I couldn't keep up the charade forever. The constant lying from Olivia, the wedding planning meetings where Marco would look me in the eye while discussing our special day, it was eating me alive. I had to confront Olivia, but I wanted to do it my way. I decided on a dinner at home. I cooked her favorite meal, seared scallops with risotto, bought her favorite wine, and even put out candles. When she got home from work, she seemed genuinely touched. "What's all this for?" she asked, smiling that smile I used to think was just for me. "Just wanted to do something special," I said. "Wedding's getting close. Thought we should take a moment to appreciate each other." The look of guilt that flashed across her face was subtle but unmistakable. We ate dinner with her chatting about work drama, carefully avoiding any mention of wedding details or Marco. I nodded and smiled at all the right moments while my stomach churned. After dinner, as we were having dessert, I finally made my move. "So," I said casually, "how long have you been sleeping with Marco?" The transformation on her face was something I'll never forget. First confusion, then shock, then panic, all in the span of about 3 seconds. She knocked over her wine glass, sending red liquid across our white tablecloth. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, not meeting my eyes as she frantically dabbed at the spill. "Please don't insult me by denying it," I said, surprised by how calm I sounded. "I've seen the texts, the emails, the hotel receipts. I know about your little rendezvous at the Westlake when you claimed to be at Jen's." She froze, cloth in hand, the tablecloth now stained beyond repair. "Symbolic, really. It's not what you think," she started, but I cut her off. Actually, it's exactly what I think. You've been having an affair with our wedding planner for months. You've been lying to my face every single day. You've been discussing a future with him after our wedding. I took a sip of my wine. Did I miss anything? She burst into tears. Not the dignified, single tear down the cheek kind, but ugly, mascara-running sobbing. I'm so sorry, she choked out. I never meant for any of this to happen. It just happened. Affairs don't just happen, Olivia. They're choices. Hundreds of little choices you made every day. Then came the excuses. She felt neglected because I worked late on the house I was designing for US. She was stressed about the wedding to me. Marco understood her in ways I didn't, after knowing her for a few months compared to my 4 years. It was all such predictable bullshit. I still love you, she insisted, reaching for my hand across the table. What I have with Marco is just physical. It doesn't mean anything. I pulled my phone out and read her own words back to her. I've never felt this way about anyone before. When this is all over, we can finally be together properly. Her face went pale. That's from last Tuesday, I said. Doesn't sound very just physical to me. I was confused, she pleaded. I made a horrible mistake. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll fire Marco immediately. Please don't throw away everything we've built. This was the moment I'd been preparing for. I'd played out this scene in my head a dozen times. Would I scream? Throw things? Break down? Instead, I felt strangely detached, like I was watching a movie of someone else's life. Here's what's going to happen, I said, folding my napkin. You're going to call Marco right now, on speaker, and tell him you need to meet tomorrow to discuss urgent wedding details. What? Why would I? Because if you don't, I'm sending screenshots of your conversations to your parents, your boss, and everyone on our guest list tonight. Her hand shook as she placed the call. Marco answered on the second ring, his voice warm and intimate. Hey, beautiful, I was just thinking about you. Olivia's eyes darted to me in panic. I nodded encouragingly. Hi, Marco, she said, her voice unnaturally high. I need to meet tomorrow about some urgent wedding stuff. Can you do breakfast at Westfield Cafe? Around 9. Everything okay? You sound strange, he said. Everything's fine. Just need to go over some details in person. After hanging up, Olivia looked at me pleadingly. What are you planning? I stood up from the table. You'll find out tomorrow. For tonight, you can sleep on the couch. Or go to Marco's. Or a hotel. I don't really care anymore. She grabbed my arm as I walked past. Please, just tell me what you're going to do. I looked down at her tear-stained face. You've been living a double life for months, Olivia. Now it's my turn. That night, as she cried on the couch and blew up my phone with text apologies, I finalized the last details of my plan. The confrontation with Olivia was just the beginning. The real show was set for tomorrow, when I'd finally meet with Marco face-to-face, knowing what I knew. Sleep didn't come easy, but when it did, it was the first peaceful rest I'd had in weeks. I barely slept the night after confronting Olivia. She spent hours on the couch alternating between crying and sending me paragraph-long texts begging for forgiveness. Around 2 a.m., she tried coming into our bedroom, but I'd locked the door. I heard her slide down against it, sobbing quietly. Part of me felt horrible. The other part remembered those messages, those pictures, those lies. Morning came, and I got ready while Olivia was still asleep on the couch, mascara streaked across her face and our throw pillows. I left without waking her. I had a wedding planner to meet. I got to Westfield Cafe 20 minutes early and chose a table in the back corner with a good view of the entrance. I ordered coffee and waited, rehearsing what I would say, trying to keep my hands from shaking. At exactly 9 o'clock, Marco walked in. I have to admit, the guy looked good. Tailored blue suit, perfect hair, confident smile as he scanned the cafe. He was probably expecting to see Olivia's worried face. Instead, he found mine. The recognition and subsequent confusion on his face was almost comical. He hesitated by the door before slowly walking over. James, he said cautiously. I was supposed to meet Olivia. Olivia's not coming, I replied, gesturing to the chair across from me. Have a seat, Marco. He sat down warily, like someone approaching a possibly rabid animal. Is everything okay with the wedding plans? I couldn't help but laugh. The absolute audacity of this guy. No, Marco, everything is not okay with the wedding plans. In fact, there's a major problem. I leaned forward. You're fucking my fiancée. His face went through the same transformation Olivia's had: confusion, shock, panic, but with one key difference. Olivia had crumbled. Marco immediately shifted to damage control. James, I don't know what Olivia told you, but there's been a misunderstanding. I placed my phone on the table between us, screen up, showing a particularly explicit exchange between them. No misunderstanding. I know everything. The hotels, the venue visits, the plans for after my honeymoon. He glanced at my phone, then back to me, calculating his next move. Look, things got complicated. Olivia and I. It just happened. These things. Don't. I cut him off. Don't tell me it just happened, like you both tripped and fell into an affair. You've done this before, Marco. Multiple times. That got his attention. His eyes narrowed slightly. Did Olivia tell you that? Because she's obviously upset and might be saying things. Olivia doesn't know I know about the others, I said calmly. About Melissa Watson's wedding in 2022. Or Jennifer Doyle's last summer. Or the Taylor Schmidt wedding you planned while sleeping with the bride. For the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. I don't know what you're talking about, he said, but his voice had lost its smoothness. I pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. Inside were printouts of everything Derek had found: social media posts, testimonials from hotel staff, bank records showing the systematic overcharging. You're not just a home wrecker, Marco. You're a fraud. Literally. He flipped through the pages, his face growing paler. When he looked up, his charming demeanor had vanished. What do you want? He asked bluntly. First, I want a full refund of everything we've paid you, plus the difference between what you charged us and what those services actually cost. That's ridiculous, I can't. Second, I continued as if he hadn't spoken. I want you to refund your previous victims. All of them. Absolutely not. You have no proof that would stand up in court, and you know it. I smiled. Maybe. But I'm sure the wedding planning community would be fascinated by this documentation. And those couples who divorced after your services? I bet their lawyers would love to reopen those settlements with this new information. Marco stared at me, jaw clenched. And if I agree to your terms? Then I won't destroy your business and your reputation. I won't file fraud charges. And I won't track down every bride you've worked with to tell them exactly what kind of man they hired. He was quiet for a long moment, considering his options. Finally, he nodded slightly. Fine, I'll refund your money. But the others? I can't possibly afford to pay everyone back. Figure it out, I said flatly. Payment plans exist for a reason. And Olivia? He asked. What happens with her? The question hit me harder than I expected. What was I going to do about Olivia? In all my planning for this confrontation, I'd focused more on Marco than on my actual relationship. That's between me and her, I said finally. Marco leaned forward, his voice low. She loves you, you know. What we had, it wasn't real. She was just scared about the wedding, about commitment. I laughed bitterly. Are you seriously trying to help me save my relationship with the woman you've been sleeping with? He shrugged. Just telling you the truth. She talked about you constantly, even when we were together. Something twisted in my gut. I didn't want to hear this. We're done here, I said, standing up. You'll have the refund process by end of day tomorrow, and I'll expect a payment plan for the others within a week. Otherwise, everything in that folder goes public. As I walked out, he called after me. She really does love you, James. I didn't look back. I spent the rest of the day driving around aimlessly, trying to figure out what to do about Olivia. My phone was filled with missed calls and texts from her, asking what happened with Marco, begging to talk. By evening, I'd gotten confirmation that Marco had processed our refund. At least that part of my plan was working. When I finally went home, Olivia was waiting. She looked terrible, still in yesterday's clothes, eyes red from crying. She jumped up when I walked in. What did you do? She asked immediately. Marco called me. He said the wedding is off, and he's refunding our money. He wouldn't explain anything else. Sit down, I said. We need to talk. For the next hour, I told her everything I'd discovered, not just about her affair, but about Marco's pattern, the financial fraud, all of it. She seemed genuinely shocked about the other women, about the money. I'm such an idiot, she whispered when I finished. I thought I was special to him. That's not the point, Olivia, I said, exhausted. You betrayed me. For months. You lied to my face every single day. I know, she said, tears streaming down her face again. And I'll regret it for the rest of my life. But please, James, please give me another chance. We can postpone the wedding, Go to counseling, whatever it takes. I'll do anything. And here was my impossible choice. Walk away from 4 years and someone I had genuinely loved? Or try to rebuild something that felt irreparably broken? My family was divided. My sister said I should never trust Olivia again. My parents, married 35 years and survivors of their own relationship crisis in the 90s, suggested people can change and relationships can heal. My friends were similarly split. I looked at Olivia, this woman I'd planned to spend my life with, now a stranger in so many ways. I need time, I said finally. I can't make this decision right now. Of course, she said quickly. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. I nodded and went to gather some clothes. I'm staying at Derek's for a few days. I need space to think. As I packed a bag, Olivia stood in the doorway, watching me. What about the wedding? She asked softly. Should I start calling people? Yes, the wedding. 12 days away now. Invitations sent, venue booked, honeymoon arranged. Not yet, I said. I need to decide what I'm going to do first. That night, lying on Derek's uncomfortable futon, I scrolled through old photos of Olivia and me. Happy, loving, seemingly perfect. Had it all been a lie? Or just the recent months? I needed to make a decision. Cancel everything quietly. Try to forgive and move forward? Or something else entirely? By morning, I knew what I had to do. It wasn't what anyone expected, not Olivia, not our families, and certainly not Marco. After spending 3 nights at Derek's place, I'd made my decision. It wasn't what anyone would expect, and even Derek thought I was crazy when I explained it. You want a what? He'd said, nearly spitting out his beer. You heard me, I replied. I'm going through with the wedding. After everything she did? After everything you found out? I nodded. Not exactly the way she thinks, though. I returned home the next morning. Olivia was still in her pajamas, looking like she hadn't slept in days. When she saw me with my bag, her face lit up with hope. James, she breathed. You're home. I set my bag down. We need to talk. She nodded eagerly, following me to the couch. I've been doing a lot of thinking. I began, choosing my words carefully. About us. About the wedding. About everything. She waited, barely breathing. I think we should go through with the wedding, I said finally. Her eyes widened in surprise. Really? Oh my God, James. Thank you. Thank you so much for giving me another chance. I promise I'll never. I held up my hand. There are conditions. She nodded quickly. Anything. Whatever you need. First, we obviously need a new wedding planner. I've already reached out to Vanessa Davis. She can take over with 10 days to go. Of course, Olivia agreed. I never want to see Marco again anyway. Second, we're going to counseling. Starting immediately. I've booked us an emergency session for tomorrow morning. Yes, absolutely. I'll take time off work, whatever we need. Third, I continued, complete transparency. I get full access to your phone, email, everything. And you tell me the whole truth about you and Marco. When it started, how it happened, everything. She winced but nodded. I'll tell you everything, I promise. And fourth, this was the tricky part. I want Marco at the wedding. Olivia's mouth fell open. What? Why would you possibly want him there? I'd prepared for this. Because I don't want to give him the satisfaction of ruining our day. I want him to see that despite what he did, we're stronger than his games. I want him to see us happy. She looked confused and uncomfortable. James, I don't think that's a good idea. Having him there would just be a reminder of what I did. It's important to me, I insisted. It's about closure. About showing him he didn't win. She hesitated, clearly torn. I don't know. It's a deal breaker for me, Olivia. Either we do this my way, or we call everything off. Finally, she agreed, though reluctantly. If that's what you need to move forward with me, then okay. The next day, we went to counseling. The therapist was clearly surprised by our situation. Most couples cancel their weddings after infidelity, not proceed with them. But I played the part of the forgiving, if wounded, fiancé. Olivia cried and apologized and promised to be better. Over the next few days, we settled into a strange new routine. Olivia was trying so hard. Cooking my favorite meals, being completely transparent about her whereabouts, showing me her phone without me asking. She seemed genuinely committed to rebuilding trust. Meanwhile, I was executing my plan behind the scenes. First, I contacted Vanessa, our new wedding planner, and filled her in on the situation. Not everything, just enough that she understood the sensitivity. She was professional and didn't ask too many questions. Next, I reached out to Marco. He was surprised to hear from me. I thought our business was concluded, he said coldly when he answered my call. Not quite, I replied. I have one more request. I've already refunded your money. What more do you want? I want you to come to the wedding. There was a long pause. Is this some kind of joke? No joke. Olivia and I are going ahead with the wedding. I want you there. Why the hell would you want that? And why would I agree? Because if you don't, I said calmly, I'll still release everything I have. Our agreement was contingent on you meeting all my terms. Another pause. This is insane. You can't seriously want me at your wedding after what happened. Be there, I said. 2 o'clock. Madison Gardens. Don't worry about a gift. I hung up before he could respond. Then came the hardest part, keeping up appearances with our families and friends. We told everyone we'd had to change wedding planners due to scheduling conflicts, but otherwise, everything was proceeding as planned. Olivia's parents were thrilled we'd worked through our cold feet. Olivia's explanation for our brief separation. My family was more skeptical, especially my sister, who kept asking if I was really sure about this. I've never been more sure of anything, I told her. It wasn't even a lie. A week before the wedding, Olivia came to me looking worried. Marco texted me, she said, showing me her phone immediately. He wants to know if I'm really okay with him being at the wedding. The message read, Olivia, James is insisting I attend your wedding. This seems like a terrible idea. Are you really okay with this? Should I be worried about what he's planning? I kept my face neutral. What did you tell him? Nothing yet. I wanted to check with you first. I nodded, appreciating her transparency even as I continued my deception. Tell him yes, you're okay with it. Tell him we're working through things, and this is part of our healing process. She looked doubtful but typed out a response. I still don't understand why you want him there, James. I pulled her close and kissed her forehead, ignoring the twist in my gut. Trust me, it's important for my closure. The final days before the wedding were a blur of last-minute arrangements, family arriving from out of town, and keeping up the charade that everything was fine. Olivia seemed genuinely committed to making things work, and there were moments, brief, fleeting moments, where I wondered if I was making a mistake with my plan. But then I'd remember those messages, the pictures, the lies, and I'd remember Marco's other victims, the women whose weddings he'd tainted with his manipulation. The night before our wedding, Olivia and I stayed in separate hotels, following tradition. She sent me a long, emotional text about how grateful she was for another chance and how tomorrow would be the beginning of our new life together. I didn't reply. I was too busy with final preparations. In my hotel room, I laid out everything I'd need for tomorrow: my suit, the special USB drive, the printed documents, and a small voice recorder. Derek stopped by to go over the plan one last time. You sure about this? He asked for the 100th time. It's not too late to just walk away. I thought about it seriously one last time. Walk away quietly, public humiliation, or my actual plan, which was something altogether different. I'm sure, I said finally. They deserve exactly what's coming to them. Next morning, I got dressed slowly, methodically. This wasn't how I'd imagined feeling on my wedding day. Instead of excitement and joy, I felt a cold, calm resolve. I checked my watch. 6 hours until the ceremony. 6 hours until everything changed. My phone pinged with a message from Olivia. Can't wait to be your wife. I love you so much. I put the phone away without responding and headed out to make my final arrangements. Wedding day had arrived, and I was ready. The morning of the wedding felt surreal. I went through the motions: shower, shave, suit, like I was following a script someone else had written. My groomsmen cracked jokes, unaware that today wasn't just a wedding, but a reckoning. The venue was breathtaking. Madison Gardens had been Olivia's dream location, and despite everything, it was still a perfect setting. White roses, elegant lighting, a string quartet playing soft melodies. A scene out of a fairy tale. Too bad the princess was about to get a reality check. Guests started arriving, murmuring excitedly. My family watched me closely, still unsure if I was truly okay. Derek, my best man, was the only one who knew the full truth. He stood beside me at the altar, giving me one last look. You sure? He asked under his breath. 100%, I murmured back. Then the music changed. Everyone stood. Olivia appeared at the end of the aisle, glowing in her dress, her father beside her. She looked radiant, nervous, but filled with hope. I wondered if she truly believed we could fix things. If she knew what was coming, Would she still be walking toward me so confidently? And then, at the back of the room, I saw Marco, dressed impeccably, looking tense. He had accepted my invitation, but didn't seem thrilled to be here. Perfect. Olivia reached me. Her father gave her hand to mine, and the officiant began. We are gathered here today. The words barely registered. I was waiting for my moment. If anyone here has any reason why these two should not be joined in matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace. Silence. I cleared my throat. Actually, I do. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Olivia's hand tightened in mine. James, what are you doing? She whispered, her smile frozen in place. I turned to the guests. Thank you all for coming today. I know you expected a wedding. Instead, I have a story to tell. A story about betrayal, lies, and about a wedding planner who took his job way too personally. Marco stiffened. Olivia's face went deathly pale. James, she whispered, please don't. But I was already pulling out my phone, projecting the images onto the massive screen meant for our slideshow. Screenshots of texts, hotel receipts, photos, a carefully curated collection of evidence showing Olivia and Marco's affair. The crowd erupted. Shocked whispers, gasps. Olivia's mother fainted. Marco shot up from his seat. This is insane, he shouted. You're ruining her life. No, Marco, I said calmly. You and Olivia did that just fine on your own. I'm just providing the visuals. Olivia collapsed into tears. James, please. We can talk about this. I gave you a chance to be honest, I said. You chose to keep lying. You chose to let me plan a future with you while you were planning one with him. And you, Marco, I turned to him. You make a habit of this, don't you? The murmurs in the crowd grew louder. People were recording. Some guests started walking out, shaking their heads in disgust. I took a deep breath. So, no, there will be no wedding today. Instead, let's celebrate something else, the truth. And, since we already paid for this venue, feel free to stay and enjoy the reception. The drinks are on me. And with that, I walked out, leaving Olivia sobbing at the altar and Marco standing frozen in the crowd. Outside, I took a deep breath of fresh air. Derek followed, clapping me on the back. That, he said, was legendary. I didn't feel victorious. Not yet. But as I walked away, free from the weight of Olivia's lies, I knew I had made the right choice. Now, it was time to start over. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could finally breathe.